growing up, we listened to R&B. I remember, and I'm a Luther Vandross stan. Again, yesterday was Luther Vandross' birthday. Rest in peace to Luther Ronzoni Vandross, the greatest that's ever done it.
Lufa.
I remember hearing people talk about that's really his first single, because Glow of Love was we can talk about that, but hearing Never Too Much, and hearing people say it was a club song. Never Too Much was going off up in the clubs in New York, everywhere, but in New York in particular. And when I tell that to my students, they can't imagine a song like, they can't imagine Never Too Much going up in the club, because for them, the club is where you hear certain kinds of sounds. And Never Too Much isn't a club sound. Disco, they can almost make sense of, right? Because that's an era. But the idea of going to a club and hearing Never Too Much was crazy. Which to me, I can hear, because I can imagine what the 80s sounded like. So there was a point here. And the point is, there was a moment where R&B was a thing that we heard in the club. There was also a moment when I remember I'm 46, so I remember being in I just remember being with my homies senior year high school, junior year high school. We were playing music, and a lot of it was hip hop. Most of it was hip hop, but it wasn't crazy to have an R&B song pop up in the tape deck or on Power 99 or whatever was playing in Philly. Then I remember hearing a conversation, or I don't know if it's a conversation. I remember Joe Budden saying something about you, Emanny. He was saying, I like hanging with Emanny because we could be in the car and I can play R&B. Right? Because like two dudes in the car playing R&B, to some people feels like you can't do this, right? Like we need to be hearing something murder, death, kill.
Really emasculated. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to make this about masculinity. That's a different conversation for a different time. But what I'm thinking about is there's a way that there was a time when R&B was so mainstream and so pervasive and so a part of what we did that it didn't feel isolated to, bedroom music or to, certain like restaurant music or, going to the concert music. It was part of just broader Black pop culture. And I worry now when I go places where I would expect to hear R&B and I just hear hip hop, it makes me wonder about where R&B is. And then when I turn on the radio and I hear hip hop, but I don't hear it nearly as much R&B. And then finally, when I listen to R&B music, some of it just feels like rap lyrics that are being sung. I'm not hearing bridges. I'm not hearing certain things that feel so integral to soul music and to R&B and to Black music and to race music, whatever you want to call it. Like I'm just not hearing those things, and I'm like, where are we? I'm just putting that out there. And man, I'm gonna start with you, and then.
Okay. So mainstream R&B has lost its identity, especially on the male R&B side. A lot of the male R&B singers, first off, they're not being bred and breeded within the church. So they don't really know how to sing. A lot of them are just getting by off whatever two riffs that they learned from somebody else. And that's cool. That's cool enough. The lyrics are now structured based around hip hop records because that's more of the commercial appeal. So now you're trying to take hip hop records and make it appealing just for R&B sound. A lot of men stopped talking to please women within R&B. There's more misogynistic machismo thing going on within R&B instead of the begging, instead of the vulnerability, instead of all that. Because even you had club records that were still very vulnerable. You had club records that were still speaking of love. It was still speaking certain things. You don't get that today. Today, you gotta be talking about, excuse my French, how many bitches you fucking? Whatever other shit that makes sense to mainstream R&B today. And then just initially just the sound itself, the sounds that we use, the acoustic guitar, the, certain drum patterns, all of that is lost. And a lot of it comes from training. A lot of people just aren't trained through what built you as. A lot of that to me started within the Black church. Some of these niggas just need to go back to church. Even if you don't believe in what you're going there for, even if you just want to be a good singer, go to church, go find something in there that you can attach yourself to, because a lot of that is just training.
That scares me, because the data and my own experience and what I'm seeing on the streets, hearing people talk about, is that the world is getting more secular, that this generation of Negroes don't want to be in church. And if the only way to get good R&B music is to get some church, I'd be telling Negroes to go back. But I'm worried, and I think I agree with everything you just said. I'm just worried that because of the trends we're going in, we're not going to see that. Like, we're not going to get there again. We're not going to get back there. And
or at bare minimum,
choirs, church choirs, all of it. I just don't know.
At bare minimum, Mark. At bare minimum, a real vocal coach. At bare minimum, some level of real stage presence, some level of, I remember, this is why you see R&B acts of the past be able to transition into movies or Broadway or anything like that, because there's something that still came with the stage presence, even in R&B.
Yes.
You couldn't just sit on the stage and not perform. Like, if you look, Gerald Levert is a perfect example of what an R&B singer.
I love his Gerald Levert.
Sing his ass off, he can perform, and he's gonna give you movement nonstop on stage.
Yo, our 280 pounds linebacker, he dancing, sweating like Heavy D. Like, it was just a thing.
Yes, it was a thing to put on a show. And even, when we go back to even just the church aspect. The church aspect, yes, you are connected with God in that moment, but you were still there to put on a show. You wanted the people in the pews to be like, that boy, Lil Robbie this week, he acted out.
Right, he got busy. Right.
So people just need to get back to some level of training, some level of really appreciating the art form for what it is. And just because you can hold the note and you can throw some tune on your thing, don't make you an R&B act. It just means that you a nigga or a niggerette that could just sing. That ain't enough for R&B.
Dr. Lindsey, what say you?
I agree. I mean, I don't think we're going back to the church, which is unfortunate, right? That there's so much Black church hurt that I think a lot of people are not being cultivated in a space of performance and recognizing Black church as a space of performance of like, sing, baby. Like, when you're messing up, people come in. There's an A&R that's happening in church performance, church musicians, that connecting to someone, you are literally making people feel something, right? And perhaps if that was still happening, pastors wouldn't be up here asking folks to lock the doors to raise $40,000. But like,
wow.
When we talk about dynamics in the church that are important to talk about, but I think that A&R, that training, we're such an instant thing right now. And so there's not development. There isn't that kind of boot camp of like, how do you connect? Perform for these three people and make me feel something when you're singing. That speaks to something very real. I mean, the defunding of music programs in schools, people not being musicians and understanding music in a particular way, and what music is supposed to do both effectively and affectively, I think matters in this. But it also is about our relationships to one another. Like, there's a distinct level of like dislike and contempt in kind of like the Black gender wars that I see that shows up in the music too. Not just in the sense of like how you're singing about bitches and hoes, or like, I don't need you, I'm good if I'm this, whatever it is, right? There's a lot of music that's very dismissive of connection and intimacy. We don't slow drag, we don't partner dance, we don't have modes of intimacy that match that. And so whether it's music or it's dance or the way we connect and convene through the arts and through expression, we've lost so much of that. And I think it can be chicken and egg here, but I do think it mirrors a disintegration of how we talk to and hold space for one another. And I'm not just talking about romantically, because there are R&B songs that are about a love that's very different, that's not just romantic love, right? Ways that we love, how we show up for one another. Like, I was trying to imagine them trying right now to do like a remake of "You Will Know," right? With that had all the brothers singing on it.
Oh shit!
Like I got like
Young boy.
I got like, and I mean the version when they're really going at it. Like us is the young buck then, and Tevin's like, "Hold on, young man," and like Tevin singing, and Gerald comes in and calls those very talented men his background singers. Like it's just incredible, and every single person who's on that song and creators of that song, right? D'Angelo is a writer, Raphael Sadiq is in there, Dwayne Wiggins, like has a distinct voice and has such a distinct presence. And that's like a love among brothers, about loving brothers and showing up on. That's nothing to do with romance. And I just can't imagine that right now with the generation, a multi-generation.
I don't even know who would be in You Will Know. I mean, again, D'Angelo before he hit it big. Who else produced that? Someone else produced that too.
Brian McKnight, right?
That's who it was.
Brian McKnight.
And it's like, I don't even know if there's space in our. Like, I don't know who the Brian McKnights are. I don't know who the D'Angelos are. I don't know. I mean, You Will Know was like the We Are the World for Negroes, and it was like I don't.
I do want to say this though. There are very, very talented vocalists today that are not getting the shine that they should get. Kevin Ross is amazing. Luke James is amazing. Avery Wilson is amazing. Darren Bernard is amazing. Like, there's a lot of people who are great vocalists.
Yes.
The problem is that they're not mainstream enough at this point to get that level of attention. And for whatever reasons, they're not connecting. Connecting to the audience. And I just think the brand of R&B that they would like to specialize in just isn't mainstream today. It's just
that bugs me out. I mean, even the girls who my age, they had Another Bad Creation on the wall. They had Kid and Play on the wall. I'm dating myself a little bit, but they're
than we are. Just so
I'm sorry. What?
You are in a different decade than Emanny and I are.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We missed all.
But like. We had but girls also got. I mean, they didn't know what they didn't know, but I'll just say that there were a lot of '90s R&B singers who they were in love with too. Their love was definitely unrequited, but most male '90s R&B singers were gay. But
I don't want to over romanticize. Like, I've also been going back and listening to some R&B, and I'm like, dear God, this is rape culture. Like, I was like, Don't Be Afraid, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like,
that song is wild.
It's wild. But I also think that, like, I completely agree with the assessment. There are so many talented singers. Like, everyone you named, I listen to them regularly. Like, but I know most people would know Luke James more for an actor, which he's great at, which he's phenomenal at as well. But that boy can sing. Like,
he's different.
Sing.
He's another world of vocalists.
Oh my gosh, he's
Avery Wilson,
Duran Bernard, like,
just
I don't even understand. And they are citational of singers of the past, of Sylvester, of Luther, of Donnie, of Mark.
Can I be a little controversial a little bit?
Please.
I don't want anyone to be offended by what I'm saying.
I mean, you already done said Sade ain't shit. You can't go no. You can't go no worse.
I do believe that there's a level of masculinity in a positive way that is missing from male R&B. And when I say that, and I think a lot of that is because some of the look has become a little softer. Some of the guys don't come off as the most appealing to the female base, either for the reasonings of them either not trying to really speak to the female base or trying to just cross over to a wider range. Damn, I want to just say it, but I don't want to get killed.
Hey, just say it. We here. We out here now.
I think a lot of male R&B acts are starting to straddle the lines between us not knowing whether they're doing their music for women.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's right. No, I think there's a. I don't want to go so far as say queering, although sometimes that's the case. But at the very least, there was a very traditional man want woman vibe. Like when Teddy Pendergrass say, "Turn him off," like you know what the fuck he's talking about. You know who he's talking to.
Okay, well,
Now,
another conversation.
Yeah.
So help me think through that, Treva. Like again, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm saying that
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, Teddy Pendergrass is a very interesting choice in that conversation, but
because of who was in the car when he was on Lincoln Drive.
Like, I don't want to pretend to know anyone's sexual orientation or who they might have been singing to, not been singing to. This, right? If we pick your favorite, right? Luther was perfectly gender neutral, and like he doesn't say she like ever. Like it's really, and like so many of my favorite songs by him could be about anybody, right? It's not
that's true.
Into
there he was this stranger.
There is a particular performance of masculinity and manhood that I think is not as present in R&B outside of the very like aggressive, like I'm doing this kind of predate. And I think all of us grow up in a heterosexual, heteronormative society. And so I think there is a thing with women also missing that, who identify as heterosexual, and like, where's that man that just sings to me and makes me want to throw my panties at him, right? Like that's still a desire. And it is a desire that's very much so entrenched into R&B's tradition and history. Whether that's good, bad, or whatever, I think that's real. And I think that speaks to the relationship that people have to R&B as a site where we think about sexuality and sex in very clear and unapologetic terms.
And I do want to point out, because I'm seeing a lot of people say it, there were acts within the past, Prince being the main one, who very androgynous, wore what he wore, did whatever he wanted to do, but was still a ladies' man. You could not leave Prince around your girl because she was going home with Prince. Isleys, they did it as well. A lot. I'm not saying that this didn't exist in a matter of dress, but I'm just talking about there was that thing where when they sang, they were speaking to a certain level of relationship that I think today isn't highlighted in the most positive way.
So where do we find that, Emanny? Do we find that in hip hop? I mean, like, or is it nowhere?
I think there's currently artists who are pushing that envelope more than others. I think Lucky Day is a perfect example of someone.
I love Lucky Day,
who is very much so gives off man's man while still being able to, adjust to this era's new look and new sound in ways. Kevin Ross as well, another person I think does it. Tank has just always been Tank, of course.